Alright, welcome to our first look at the 1993 classic Traffic Department 2192 by P Squared Productions. We'll jump right in by running through a single level of gameplay using our developer's eye to dissect the experience. We'll identify core elements of the game, including assets, mechanics, and game flow, in order to build intuition for our upcoming work in asset extraction and prototyping. We'll finish by creating a high-level diagram that will evolve over the course of this series. So sit back, put on our thinking caps, and let's play Traffic Department. Right away we have an introduction, some ominous music, and a time-setting hint. A fade-in to reveal a setting graphic. No apparent animations, except the subtitles fading in and out at the bottom. I don't recognize this font as a usual OS-provided character set. It may be custom. These pixel artifacts around the planet could be a result of dithering, but it's difficult to tell since this image has a narrow gamut. Most of the pixels come from the yellow sector of the color wheel. Understanding how these images are stored will be important during asset extraction. Now we have a credits sequence built from actual gameplay action. You really have to appreciate the full glory of the OPL synthesizer and the ad-lib sound card that power the games of this era. Okay, this text has a shadow effect, likely from being drawn twice, once in black and then once offset up and to the right in color. The camera in this scene appears to be moving at a fixed rate across the world, not locked to the ship. The ship itself cycles through speeds, slowing down and speeding up relative to the camera. At first I thought the landscapes beside the road were either repeating segments or randomly generated, but several replays confirm that this entire scene is always the same. My instinct says that this is just a manually drawn landscape, although we can't rule out procedural generation with a fixed number seed. Recreating this scene will likely be a final polishing step, since we need some mechanics in place, such as a functioning ship and a game world. Okay, here we see obvious indications of dithering due to the rich variety of colors in this scene. This guarantees that these images had post-processing with custom palette indices. Many games from this era used custom palettes in order to save space and keep the game under a megabyte or so for floppy disks. The PCX image file was a pretty common color index solution at the time. I don't think we'll find that here though. Okay, now we have an option to choose between clean and dirty dialogue. And now we're at the main menu with some new music and all the usual suspects. New game, save game, load, continue game. A few upselling choices here due to the shareware release model. We have a text highlighter with fade-in effects as we scroll through the menu. Other than starting a new game, and the save and load feature is probably the most important, so let's look at this. Alright, we see 10 saved game slots, different highlighting mechanism than the main menu. Alright, we'll escape out of here and hit quit and check out this confirmation pop-up. Some menu interactions generate a confirmation pop-up. Alright, let's play this game, shall we? We start with a mission title pop-up, a different font than we've seen already. It doesn't appear to be a scaled-up version of the old font. Here we have another static display providing a setting for the mission. Okay, this text is drawn down here, maybe either part of the image or drawn over it. It's likely drawn over it since there's no color artifacts, and that's just good design in terms of reuse of the image. These briefings here are where the real magic of the game is. The majority of all character development happens here. Over the course of the game's 59 missions, we meet everybody here in this dialogue-driven sequence. Our main character, Marta Velasquez, is the undisciplined champion archetype with the chip on her shoulder. We see all the major character types here, from the authority figures to the classic bad guys and the weasels. In my opinion, this is where the game happens. The dialogue sequence gives us something to work for through each of the missions. So each of the exchanges involves multiple characters with only two visible at a time. It follows the speaker-listener format, with the speaker highlighted and the listener dimmed. We see a more advanced text parser than we saw in the introduction. Pauses, it has scrolling effects, colors that match the characters. We won't see it in the briefing, but there may be multiple dialogue sequences for each mission. Alright, another fade out effect, and we're in the mission. We can see the action is strictly top down with a gameplay area and a heads up display at the bottom. A static environmental tile set makes up the background. There are other ships flying around that are likely pre-rendered sprites, given that they can appear in arbitrary locations and rotations as needed. I believe the message at the bottom right told me to go destroy some trucks, so let's go do that. We'll follow the red indicator near my ship. Some of these ships are trying to stop me, and others appear to be following a fixed path. This means we have at least 2 different AI mechanisms at work. We have everything you'd expect from an action shooter. Explosions, multiple weapons, enemy ships, neutral ships. Haven't seen any allies, but we can assume there will be ally ships too. I'll do the rest of the scripted mission and then we can experiment a bit. Alright, go stop more trucks. Oh, go kill the ship. Alright, these missions are goal-oriented. There's always an immediate task to do. When the task is complete, it triggers a new task until the mission's complete or you die. Alright, mission complete. Let's return to base. But first, let's look at the HUD for a minute. We have some status readouts including shields, armor. The shields recharge while the armor does not. Shields, armor, speed, weapon loadout, those are just some of the factors that make up different types of ships. So we know that the game requires at least some kind of balancing system. Here we have an active minimap that displays ships and shots. This means we must maintain a more condensed view of the world space. This shows our current weapon and a count of the missiles we have left. This box shows a ticker of mission events. Now let's talk about the ship controls. As you'd expect, there are directional movements of up, down, left, and right, and are mapped to the same keys. Now these controls use the world space as a basis and not the local space of the ship, which is common in modern games. You might expect that holding the right button will make a character or ship rotate clockwise. Holding up will then make the ship head in the direction it's facing. But in this game, hitting left makes the ship move literally to the left. If the ship isn't facing left, it'll automatically turn to that direction and then move straight ahead to the left. The same rules apply for the other directions. If you move in the exact opposite direction though, the ship moves in reverse rather than turning. It's possible to move it diagonally, but the world design really doesn't allow us to make much use of intermediate directions, where we primarily move in the cardinal directions. Our final topic is collisions, of which I see 2 broad cases. There's the environmental collisions, where an object in motion, such as a ship or a shot, hits a static boundary, like a wall. And the other case is when 2 objects in motion hit each other. The only case here is weapon shots hitting moving ships. Remember, ships don't actually collide with other ships in this game. Right, we can see that the behavior of a ship bouncing off the walls appears believable if somewhat arbitrary. This clearly isn't a Newtonian physics simulation. Note there's no point does the ship appear to actually cross the plane of the boundary. Alright, so this is a bit of a different behavior when our shots hit the wall. Note that the final frame of the shot is clearly visible inside the wall before it's destroyed. And this hints that the events of bouncing off the wall of the barrier and collision destruction actually occur in a different order. The ship rebounds before the frame is rendered to the screen, but the destruction of the shot happens post-render. In fact, if we move different distances from the wall, we can show how far into the wall the shot. We can vary how far into the wall the shot will end up. There really is no correct way to handle this case. The alternative is for shots to disappear well before they hit the wall. If we wanted to improve on the design, we might go for early destruction and then create some kind of particle effect on the wall to make it look like damage. Again, these are ideas to think about, but we're only here to recreate this design. We'll hold off on improvements until after prototyping. So let's head back to base. Alright, after finishing the mission, we have some gameplay statistics that appear to be tracked throughout the game. The reward is going through qualitative assessments of player performance down here. Now we have another setting graphic. So these debriefing sequences at the end of a mission follow the same format as the briefing. The first mission has 2 dialogue debriefing sequences. Another feature is that if I hit the escape key, we cut right back to the main menu. If you do this during briefing, the game cuts straight to the mission. Sometimes I wish there was a button to cut out the mission. We might go ahead and add that feature down the line. And that concludes a single mission of Traffic Department 2192. Let's save this game and think about this for a minute. So we saw a lot going on in that first mission, but not everything. I'd say that we saw the minimum that needs to happen to have a playable game. The base case for the game, really. I've started a design document here that we'll build up over several videos. This single starting slide simply lists all the observations that I made during a practice run prior to this. I think I mentioned all of these points at least once here on the video. We'll take the game concepts we observed and construct a framework that fits the structure of the game. Since this is our first pass, we'll start with the highest possible view. In general, though, I keep design simple because I'm a one-man team, and these documents serve more as a personal reminder than a formal methodology. We won't be digging into any formal analysis or UML or any other modeling tools. Let's add a new slide. On this slide, we'll lay out the minimum path through the game. In project management terminology, this would be the critical path. We'll start by adding a box here that represents the first situation we encounter, which is the introduction sequence. And in the introduction, we encountered a sequence of pictures and subtitles describing the setting. We can also include the action credits sequence as part of the introduction. After the introduction, we move to the main menu. Now, compared to the introduction, the menu has a lot going on. There's many ways we can interact. We can draw out all the possible things we can do with the main menu, and we will do this later on. But for now, we're only interested in how we complete the game, through playing it. So, from the main menu, we go to a mission briefing. Again, we aren't necessarily sure which mission briefing, since the game contains 59 of them. We could delineate that here. New game always leads to mission 1, while next mission can go to any other. Let's keep it simple for now. One box that represents an arbitrary mission briefing. Now, the most complicated part of the game is the mission itself, which features the action gameplay with the possibility of victory or failure. Despite all the moving parts to the mission, again, we'll keep it simple. Just a rectangle. This section will probably have multiple slides dedicated to it later. And finally, we have the mission debriefing that always follows a successful mission. Now, an obvious design question is if there's really a difference between the briefing and the debriefing. It's a very good question. Maybe we could just send an arrow from the mission back to the briefing and then back to the main menu. Now, I don't think we should make that explicit overload on the diagram right now. So we'll decouple it, put it at the end, and it's clear what it means. And the debriefing leads us back to the main menu. From the player's perspective, if we repeat this loop 58 more times, we'll have a finished game. True, most players would probably take advantage of the save feature off the main menu, but we'll leave that out for now. I think that covers everything for now. Even though this game flow diagram is simple, it does provide us a useful framework to classify the game features and direct our work going forward. In the next video, I'll shift gears and we'll take a closer look at the asset structure of the original game. The next hour or two of videos will focus on extracting these assets. We'll take a notional look at reverse engineering using a hex editor and IDA Pro and old-fashioned brain power. Now, I'm going to mention that we're not going to reconstruct any source code. My goal is more about learning through speed development and exploring alternative design, not directly porting code to another platform. Thanks for watching.